Okay. Hello? Power? Hello? Hello? Better. All right. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. We are here to celebrate local news and its importance in our civic life. So I would love to have all of our local civic journalism awardees here behind me, at least one from each organization. And we'll start this off right. We're here to honor you and to talk about a new report that the Vermont Community Foundation is putting out about our local news and information ecosystem. So first, I just want to say this is what we hope will be an annual event. It's the first of these awards, but we hope every year we'll be able to do this sort of thing. My name is Kristen Fountain, and I am the coordinator of the Vermont Journalism Coalition. We are a new organization. We were formed this past summer, and we elected our first board in December. They represent a really broad swath of Vermont media of all types, shapes, and sizes. And I was hired this week. So we have made our deadline. We're here in time for this blessed event. So I just want to explain really briefly why the coalition came into being. First of all, we wanted to meet this technological moment where the old silos that divided us as journalists between print and broadcast and between digital and hard copy and monthly and weekly and daily, a lot of that just seems to matter a lot less in our current environment. And it really made a lot of sense to us to have an organization where we could all speak to each other and pursue our common goals, they include policy goals, such as increasing the percentage of state advertising that gets spent in our local media, and also defending and expanding our access to public records and public meetings. But they also include facing this very difficult economic moment for our local news providers. We were founded with the belief that there is really a lot that we can do in coordination to strengthen each other, and that we are stronger together. So that's the organization. My name is Kristen Fountain, as I said, and I've been a journalist in Vermont for over 20 years. I started at the Valley News back at what I guess we now know was the pinnacle of the number of journalists in Vermont in 2004. But I've also worked at the Stowe Reporter Waterbury Record, and most recently was an editor at vtdigger.org. And in between, I also helped start and run several nonprofits in the Northeast Kingdom where I live. So it's very exciting for me to have the opportunity to bring those two strands together. I want to just take a moment to thank the University of Vermont Center for Community News and the Vermont Community Foundation, without which the Vermont Journalism Coalition would not exist. So we thank you for this opportunity to get us on our feet. So we got two items on our agenda today. The first, which you'll be hearing, is about this report that VCF is putting out, and the second will be awarding the Civic Journalism Awards to these nice folks. I just wanted to speak briefly about why I think both are significant to journalists as a whole in the state. First, about the awards. These are $5,000 to $10,000 awards that have been given to 16 different media organizations. They were chosen by an independent panel that was convened by the Center for Community News, made up of both active and academic journalists, but none that were involved in applying for the awards. So we feel we had a great process there. They're being given out by the Vermont Secretary of State's office, which seems appropriate given their centrality to civic life as well. So those awards, I think, to me are significant not just because they are financially helpful to these organizations, but because they symbolize a real understanding by our lawmakers and our state officials that local journalism is a key institution in our civic life, that it's just as important as our public libraries and our public buildings, and that it deserves public support and also support from the individuals and businesses that are really the lifeblood of our business. And then the report, we'll hear more about it, but to me, this whole sense of an ecosystem really rang true. I don't think any of the findings will be surprising, but I really like this bird's eye view, this idea that we really are all connected and the successes of all of us rise and fall together. So anyway, I first want to invite up Senator Perchlik. He has been a champion of these awards and helped us bring them here today. So.
Thank you, Kristen. I got my reporter's notebook here for my notes that I have, thanks to the Press Forward initiative that the Vermont Community Foundation is doing. So thanks to the Vermont Journalism Coalition. I mean, it's unfortunate that we had to have a group formed to kind of protect our journalism and press ecosystem in Vermont. I think there's other work that they could do, but I think the main thing that I see them doing is trying to protect the journalists and the ecosystem that we do have. I think the report does a great job of showing where we are, and it will give us a benchmark to see how we can get back to a more healthy ecosystem that we once had in Vermont. Also, was already mentioned, but the UVM Center for Local Community News, I think important. I don't think we'd be here today if they didn't invite Secretary of State and I to a panel 2 years ago where we kind of soft launched this idea of some kind of way to fund these local journalists. And when I say local, I really mean local. I mean the people that are going to school boards and the select board and what the local fire department's doing and what the sheriffs are doing. That's something that we really need to build that civic fabric, and a local fact-based press corps is important for that. So thanks for the work that UVM is doing, also training our young journalists is an important part of that ecosystem. So why should the state be doing this? I think it's because the press corps, the body of the press, is under attack. We have a president that says that the press is the enemy of the people. It's something he's repeatedly said, that the press is not something that's important to our civic life, and it's something that should be attacked. So I saw these awards as almost like a vaccine to fight against the infection that the president in particular, but also other people that support him, and this view that we don't need an independent fact-based press corps. And this is the idea is how we can highlight some of the local journalism that's happening that's just very important. It's not covering the president, it's not on the national things, but it's still important that we have this press corps that can hold us accountable. It's similar in my mind to, like was mentioned, the libraries, but also we as in the legislature fund the judiciary, but the judiciary has the ability to come after us and say you're doing something wrong or illegal. And that's an important part of the checks and balances. And it's been said many times before that the press is the fourth estate. I think of them as the fourth branch of government, and that's essential. And we should be supporting that, just as we support a free and independent judiciary. We want a free and independent press corps. And these awards are a small step into trying to support that. And I'm hopeful, as Kristen said, that we can do this annually, or there's other ways that we could do this. I have talked to people I respect in the press that have said we shouldn't do this, that the press shouldn't take money from the government, because similar to money in politics, is there something corrosive about that? And I would maybe agree with that if the press wasn't under such attack, and there wasn't such a concerted effort to undercut our press and a free, open, fact-based press. So that's why I proposed this and want to keep it going. Yeah, I think that's the basics of the idea behind it. I'm so glad that we did the report. I'm so glad that of the awardees, and I congratulate them on their work. We didn't have anything to do with who got chosen for the awards, and was glad that they were able to find a panel of experts that weren't actually employed by any of the awardees that could choose these awardees. And I congratulate them mainly just for the great work they're doing for our communities and how important that is to keep our civic fabric intact so it doesn't get torn, which I feel is a danger. So I will pass it on now to Dan Smith of the Vermont Community Foundation for some words. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dan Smith. I'm president and CEO of the Vermont Community Foundation. Can everybody hear me okay? I see Holly in the back. Thank you. I just want to start with a story. I grew up on a dirt road about 20 minutes from here, and there was a moment every morning in our house. I had two brothers, older and younger. Every morning in our house where we would huddle in the kitchen eating our Cheerios, and it was like 6:55, 6:58, and WDEV would play the birthdays and anniversaries. And man, it was a big deal to hear your birthday, your brother's birthday, your friend's birthday, your parents' anniversary. And that was a moment that was shared in households across central Vermont and the listening area. There is something about the fabric of shared experience that builds community, right? The civic fabric that we all rely on is based in trust. Trust comes from shared information, reading the same stuff. That starts a conversation. Doesn't mean we all agree, but we start at the same place. And that is what is so important about what folks who are standing behind us do and what local journalism brings. Fast forward, my first job after high school was actually in the newsroom at WDEV when Anson Tebbets was actually the news director. I was 18. It was summer in 1993. They gave me a cell phone the size of my forearm, and I covered everything from fish hatcheries to harness races. But the lens that you get into what's going on in place in the lived experience of our communities is unlike any other lens. And we're just so fortunate to have so many people who are committed to bringing truth and connection and cohesion to communities through their work. So thank you for that service. The Community Foundation was founded in 1986 to be a source of enduring philanthropy that goes to work on the vitality of Vermont communities. That means we're constantly challenging ourselves to better understand what the conditions of place are, what the experience of place is, what are the challenges that Vermont communities face. And increasingly in the last few years, we've seen that we're not immune from the tensions and some of the divisions that are abroad. That comes from, at some level, where we get our information and what we understand to be true. So that led us to an exploration of what the role of philanthropy, if our goal is strong communities and shared facts and truth are central to the civic fabric we face, what is the role of philanthropy and the work of the Community Foundation in sustaining that as part of our civic infrastructure? We were able to partner with the Press Forward National Initiative. We're not the only foundation thinking about this in this country. And be able to pull some major insights and support from national partners that help us consider what the ecosystem of Vermont really needs and what will benefit Vermont communities over time. These are challenging times, not just for the reasons Senator Perchlik, sorry, familiarity, not just for the reasons Senator Perchlik articulated, just the economics of this industry is under assault. And people are making it work despite those challenges. So what we're here to do today, our piece of this puzzle, in addition to celebrating the Civic Journalism Awards, is actually to roll out a report. And I want to thank my colleagues, Holly Morehouse, who's VP for Community Impact at the Foundation, and Jesse Schmidt, who is our Director of Strategic Initiatives, for their work pulling together this report. We commissioned this report and this research to help us understand the state of local media and local news in Vermont, where we can go from here, and how we're going to get there. It is based on deep community engagement, a lot of conversations, a lot of assessment of the industry. We've heard about the sector's key strengths, the challenges, and the opportunities that are ahead. I want to start with the good news. Vermonters recognize the value of their local news outlets. They see it. They feel the connection that comes from it. Our local news sector is made up of a large number of providers who are deeply connected to place, deeply connected to communities, and who are honestly getting a lot of it done by hook and crook, just as independent providers, stretching their budgets and stretching the hours in the day to get it done. I want to also celebrate that collaboration is strong. These are folks who work together regardless of community, regardless of platform, and share insight, share information. They're committed to working together to solve problems. And despite these and the other strengths that we know to be true about Vermont, Vermont is still a place where neighbors look out for one another. We're still a place where community matters. That news ecosystem is fragile. The way it's reported and produced and consumed has changed. Hyperlocal outlets and even statewide outlets operate on thin margins, limited staff and resources. And Vermonters are expecting new and different things from our outlets. So that innovation question is front and center. So where do we go from here? We've got to deepen the commitment to collaboration. We've got to empower community journalism and bringing voices into the fold. And we've got to mobilize more funding. The Community Foundation is only able to do the things it's able to do because people trust us to put resources to work and do so effectively. And we have to continue to grow support in our communities. We have to make sure that the mantle between generations is passed so people know where to go for trusted information and to think critically. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard for us to navigate the fraying social cohesion of place and the civic understanding that comes from a place of trust when we have local media outlets. So as you heard from Senator Perchlik, the local civic journalism awards recognize fact-based local journalism, and we're proud to have matched the $50,000 of state funding with $50,000 through the Press Forward initiative. And the work would not be possible without the leadership of the Secretary of State's office. So I want to hand it over to Sarah Copeland-Hansis, and I just want to reaffirm that when it comes to collaboration, that is across the sector, it's also across government, philanthropy, the nonprofit sector, the for-profit sector, and community. We do more and we do it more effectively in Vermont when we find ways to work together. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons from this strategy. Is not just about local journalism, it's about what we can get done when we work together. So I'm really thrilled to hand it over to Secretary Hansis.
So it's really exciting to be here today and to see this project come to fruition. As Senator Perchlik noted, this is a conversation that began a couple of years ago, and a big thank you to the Vermont Legislature and to the Vermont Community Foundation for pulling together this money, these resources to help these and many other news outlets who weren't able to travel and be here with us today. You know, people might wonder, why is the Secretary of State's office involved in this? And to me, it fits in directly with the focus of our office on civic engagement and people's ability to understand how the government works around them. And so many of these news outlets are really the only source of information on what's happening at your school board, at your select board, at your city council. And it is so critical for people to be able to make decisions about whether they will vote yes or vote no, or vote for this candidate or that candidate, if they don't understand the issues that are coming before those municipal and school bodies. So making sure that we have a well-informed electorate who is able to be civically engaged. I mean, I just love the image of 3 little boys sitting around the kitchen table with their Cheerios waiting to see whose birthday it is today. I mean, if that's not engagement in your community at its essence, I don't know what is. But all of us need access to that information about what's happening in our local communities and the decisions that are being made on our behalf. One of the projects of our civics work in the Secretary of State's office was the Civic Health Index that came out just a little over a year ago. And that report found that Vermont ranks second in the country for the number of people who report that they frequently read, watch, or listen to news and information about political, societal, or local issues. That's 79% of Vermonters who report that they that they regularly consume news. And I think that that really speaks to the importance of these local news outlets, because while many of us have frequent bouts of wanting to turn off the national news and not listen to things that are happening outside of our state, everybody's striving for more information and understanding of what's happening in their local community. And these local media outlets that we're recognizing today are really essential to Vermont's civic health. And so that is why when this program was being contemplated in the legislature, I agreed to offer up the resources of my office just to administer the program. We are the state granting agency that has been able to cut these checks, and we're so thankful to the Journalism Coalition for putting the infrastructure around how these awards were granted. So, without further ado, I think we'll dive right into to a chance to recognize some of these awardees. I think, as Kristen said earlier, the panelists opted to give 4 $10,000 awards and chose to award $5,000 grants to a dozen different news entities and organizations. So there are more awardees than we will be recognizing here, and so we're going to try to stick just with the ones who are able to be here with us today, so that we can give them a certificate, thank them for their work, and give you all an opportunity to ask questions after the round of certificates. So. First awardee in the $10,000 category is the Waterbury Roundabout. Also in the $10,000 category, the White River Valley Herald. Let's see, is Vermont Independent Media here? We weren't sure whether they'd be able to make it up. Vermont Independent Media is, is out of Brattleboro, so that's a bit of a long haul. Although thankfully the roads are clear today, I think. So, okay, maybe not. Fact-based journalism right here. All right, so some of the awardees in the $5,000 category, the Barton Chronicle. Wonderful. See, look at that. Pictures and everything. I love it. Okay, from a little closer to my neck of the woods. Oh, thank you. The Caledonian Record. The Hardwick Gazette. The Heinsberg Record. The North Star Monthly. Wonderful. Radio Vermont Group. Beautiful. So you gotta have the logo out there.
Absolutely. Branding.
That's right. The Valley News. Valley, the Valley Reporter. Vermont Community Newspaper Group. Thank you. The Bridge. Oh, the hometown. Everybody's loving that. Planted those hoops and hollers back there. I love it.
Got a home field advantage.
Yeah. And last but not least, very proud, my hometown paper, the Journal Opinion. Wonderful. So now we are going to hear from Kristen.
Well,
You're gonna,
no.
Are you going to introduce the rest of the?
You
do
can.
that. You
Okay,
do
we didn't coordinate this part, but I asked Cassandra from The Bridge and Alex from the Journal Opinion if they could just speak very briefly about like the kind of miraculous work that they do to really make this journalism happen in really quite challenging circumstances. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Hemingway, the editor of The Bridge. I'm not sure in a minute I can tell you all of our miracles, but I did want to say two things about The Bridge. One is just financially, a few years ago, our revenue stream was about 60% advertising, 40% individual gifts and grants. And this past year, 2025 ended, our revenue stream was 30% advertising and 70% individual gifts and grants. So that, to me, that speaks to how welcome and important these kinds of awards are. Thank you to Senator Perchlik, thank you to Secretary of State, to the Vermont Community Foundation, and Press Forward for that. The other thing I wanted to say is this is helping to build out our editorial capacity, which is, I think for all of us, that's a big need. And we have a special project that's been on the back burner for a few years that we're finally going to be able to implement, which is designed to do a little bit of extra reporting to hopefully engage our readers more with their local governments and bring some awareness of all the nuts and bolts of civic life. So with that in mind, I thank you very much for the award. We are honored.
Hello, my name is Alex Nuti DeBiase. I'm the managing editor of the Journal Opinion newspaper in Bradford, Vermont. I want to thank everyone, want to echo everything that Cassandra just said. I was telling one of my colleagues earlier that my publisher would have been here today, but she's out delivering the papers to the gas stations and the convenience stores and the post office. So I just wanted to say a little bit about our paper and how we hope to use some of the funds through the awards. Like I said, we're a weekly paper in Bradford covering eastern Orange County and parts of Caledonia County in New Hampshire. One thing that I'm very excited is that we'll be using some of these funds to purchase new computer hardware for the editorial department, which is me and my copy editor. So new laptops for us and badly needed computer software for the advertising department. But beyond those specifics, you know, we're of course, we've mentioned a lot of the headwinds that small newspapers and media outlets are facing these days. I was just telling one of my colleagues, we just received notice on Monday, actually, from our press that we'll be receiving our third newsprint price increase within the last 5 months. So this funding helps us cope and absorb with these price increases. And it's not just newsprint, it's also the tariffs on aluminum that the press is putting in place. So anyway, thank you so much for everyone, and very much appreciate the work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to open it up to any questions for any of the folks here, whether you are covering it for the media or just have a burning desire to talk to us. So. I know, it's a little bit awkward, but I hope they will also cover this event and their much-deserved awards. But
I guess from journalist to journalist here, I mean, we've seen, you know, print newspapers, go under. Specifically, the Brandon Reporter, I believe, ceased to exist last year, but we've even seen very large newspapers like the Times-Picayune in Louisiana go under as well. Just, as print journalists, I mean, what are we thinking about here, in terms of going forward and continuing to report to you?
I'll just say really briefly that I think, to be very honest, the difference making in Vermont are all these individuals up here and how hard they work and how committed they are to their community and to continuing to cover their communities. It really is an individual choice to make those drives to deliver the paper and to work into the midnight hour, on deadline, for when you could be paid much more to be doing something else. So I think that there are those individual decisions, but I do think there are systems that we can put in place by collaborating that can make that all more sustainable and perhaps less onerous. Here's hoping. That's not a rah-rah great news, but does anyone, there's no miracle here, but we can work hard and we can make change.
Hi, Paul Fix with the Hardwick Gazette. One thing I think is really important that we haven't heard today, I don't think the Hardwick Gazette is alone in having well more than 50% of our expenses go to Vermonters who are working for us. While even our largest broadcast television media have some citizen journalists sending things in, giving them referrals, sending photos, every one of us is spending well more than half our budgets on Vermonters working for us. At the Hardwick Gazette, it's over 70%. So however you slice these awards, a significant portion of them keeps Vermonters working in a business where we hold our government and businesses' feet to the fire. And I think that's a really important piece of what we're doing. Thank you.
To piggyback on that a little bit, I find it refreshing that it seems in recent years the number of people who are applying to be journalists has just spiked. And this is knowing that we're a print forward, pulp paper product that covers high school sports and select boards, and the number of young people, recent college graduates that are applying to be journalists right now is quite frankly remarkable and really refreshing. Just the sheer number of people who want to do this work, and if we could hire more, we would. And the money that we get will certainly go into personnel and editorial, and hoping to perhaps increase newsrooms. And I don't think I speak just for myself here, in that regard.
And I would like to answer your question. And the reason that I am bullish about print journalism and community journalism in general is because I speak for myself and my colleagues, but all of you in this room, it matters to us. It's really important. It's a community connection that we create. And without that connection, we become fractured. And without the local school budget or paving South Hill Road or whether Warren should have speed bumps, to connect us, we tend to focus, and those of you who have attended the University of Vermont Journalism Conferences have heard this before, without local news, you don't eat less news, you eat more news, and it's partisan. And that does not have the same connections that we may have with each other, whether we agree about the school budget and whether we agree about paving a road or whether we agree about speed bumps. We are connected at a level where we can affect change and be part of change. So I think print journalism happens because of those of us in the room, those who deliver the papers. Who hasn't delivered the papers here, right? Right? It happens because it matters to me personally to record the history of the Mad River Valley, but also to connect the people in my community to their elected officials. So thanks very much to all of you who made that possible, and thanks to all of you in this room who continue to make that possible.
Obviously, great question.
So I'm Jeff Javotte with the Huntsburg Record, and part of my town sees me as a bit of a villain because we ended our print, and it was a hard decision. but it was feeling that we were not addressing the audience that was consuming its news from online, and that we needed to devote all our energies and our money to doing it online where people were. And the change has been extraordinary. And this grant is going to help us with the transition of loss of advertising, but we're regaining it online. But it was a hard decision, but we were a monthly that appeared 10 times a week. I mean, 10 times a week. Oh, that would make it double daily. 10 times a year. And our post office, sad to say, could not deliver it within 2 weeks. So we were no longer relevant, is how we viewed it. So I think that we all have to decide how we become relevant, how we represent all of the voices in town, and that's our next ambition. So thank you for your support.
One more.
I want to jump, because the nature of the question, you know, a bunch of different outlets are going to answer the question about how to respond. But I think from a community perspective, there's also a culture thing that we actually have to be really intentional about, right? Culture is the pattern of repeated behaviors. And the transfer of practice, of the practices that drive civic vitality between generations, is something we're not doing real well right now, right? And part of that transfer of culture between generations is why it's important to think critically and source your information locally from people who are close to place. So it's not just up to outlets to adapt. It's up to us to reinforce in community why local journalism matters and where to get it from trusted sources. And so I think there's something that everybody needs to hold that helps us navigate this, not just from an industry standpoint, but from a community standpoint.
Absolutely. Pick up your local paper, read it, advertise in it, give to it, engage. I think that's the message, right? So, okay, any other questions? People you may recognize from your hometown, like paper, please approach them. They are here to be available. And it's been my honor to be here as well. So thank you so much.
This is the most well-covered day in the State House of all time.
Oh, good.